Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the new thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you over here.
Today is Friday, December 12th.
Rev Z right here.
And today is Friday, December 12th. This is we're using some cheap AI to help.
My Alexa wanted to get in on the conversation.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's the fun of life, folks. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen. So welcome to a Friday morning. This is the program where Rev Z and I get to talk about anything we want to talk about. And sometimes, you know, it's the crap of politics. I'm going to say that. Sometimes it's just what's going on in life. So good morning there, Z. How are you doing today?
Oh man, everything's good. You know, just amazed at the we talked about the weather, not just in the U.S. but globally. We know life is built on patterns, and right now, patterns, the weather, global changing. And we're not going to Denver, Colorado yesterday, and basically going to be 60s, low 60s, mid 60s until next Wednesday or Thursday. Now we're talking about almost Christmas. It's going to be in the 60s. This is like Florida weather, North Florida weather, not Colorado weather for winter.
Yeah, not Colorado, sure.
It's an interesting phenomenon.
Yep. It's
so
I do wonder, Z, often anymore, are we in those very, very earliest stages of a polar flip and scientists haven't fully declared it yet, or we're not fully aware of it? But between snows and flooding in China and Indonesia and all around the world, and you could say that anywhere on the planet there's some sort of anomaly and some sort of flood and some sort of something going on, but this seems to be happening everywhere all at once and to a greater degree than ever before.
Yes. And as we move into a calendar new year, right? I mean, we know people have lunar new years and they have different indicators of when the new year starts, depending on the culture and where you are.
Yep.
But for us here, as we begin to prepare for whatever you do for a new year, whether it's resolutions, vision boards, solitude to rethink your plan, everything indicates that this is a year. If you haven't done it before, you can figure a little something out now to figure out, how do I navigate going forward?
Right.
Because it's going to be, I think that there's, as the tale of two cities say, it was the best of time, it was the worst of times, and all of the things that go after it. It was the time of reason, it was the time of non-reason. I mean, it will be a year for us to really do some self-reflection and understand the idea of charity and altruism and service, and to open-hearted towards the flexibility of one and only game that's being played, I think, and that's called life. That takes all kind of twist and turn, and I think we have to get prepared. And the news is the indicator that that is the case.
Yeah. And you know, there's a topic I find compelling, is how do we bring the news back? How, as a people, and I'm not just saying any one person or as an ideal, but as a whole, as part of, I don't know what news ever stood for. Maybe there's an acronym for it that it originally, what it meant, right? Is what's the news? I don't know where the word originated. Mm-hmm. However, you're out there and you're watching and you know how the word news originated, drop it in the comment box. Let me know. Let us know here. But it feels like we're in a place where at least half, no matter who you are, at least half of the news can't be trusted. Generally, the half that doesn't say the same thing you believe, or the half that you're not watching. Yeah. Because everybody I know, if you're watching conservative news, you bitch about the liberal news. If you're watching liberal news, you're bitching about the conservative news. So how do we get back from having labels on the news? How do we get back to this is what happened, and then letting that be a little bit? I don't know. Maybe we need to restrict the news channels to only 4 hours a day, and you only have 4 hours of broadcasting a day.
Well, you know, it's interesting, and I saw a program not too long ago that spoke to the idea of us moving toward, a 24-hour news cycle.
I don't even know. I don't even know if it lasts 24 hours.
At that moment.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I mean, in terms of the 24-hour piece, is that you can get it, right? Because if I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I turn on the news channel, I won't necessarily get current news right now for the US, but I can for Europe. I can, I can get the BBC live, right?
Yeah.
And if you have some access to some other markets, you can get African news, and so I think what winds up happening is this. When I was growing up, the news was a informative piece of information that allowed, and now it has become, in my mind, largely entertainment. I'll say it's 80%, 75 to 80% entertainment, and 25 to 20% actual actionable information that you can trust. And that's sad because we live in such a diverse world. We need to be able to keep a handle on it. It was different when I was in a small city or a small town, and everybody basically knew everybody, and there was nothing happening in that town that somebody didn't know about. But now we're connected globally, and what happens in the current tensions between Japan and China, with planes and bombers flying potentially, that affects us.
Yeah. I guess I am.
When I heard Russia, go ahead.
We're going to fight over who goes next.
No, I'm just saying one thing with that. When I heard that Russian bombers would, when I heard Russian bombers were joining Chinese air patrols near Japan, I was like, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary stuff.
Yeah. And we here in the US, I'm interested in how the world is looking at the seizure of this Venezuelan or not Venezuelan or whatever oil tanker. They want to say it's not they want to say it doesn't fly a flag, so it's not really Venezuelan, but they also want to say, yeah, but it is really Venezuelan, and they're smuggling oil to sanctioned nations, and this is part of a shadow fleet. And I'd really be interested to see what other countries, how other perspectives are reporting on this story. Because it feels like we've started a shadow war with Venezuela and nobody voted for it and nobody knows about it except a handful.
No. And there's been talk of rabble rousing, if you will, that Colombia is next, right?
Wow.
So it's like the current administration and the leadership are privatizing, if you will, everything in this country. The legal system to their own liking and needs, the military, the medical, the educational, and they're making it their own personal tools, and they're applying it to everybody, whether you like their policies or approach or ideologies or not. And that's why we have to at least be aware of the news at some capacity. Now, as you said earlier, trying to determine what's the facts and nothing but the facts, that's different.
Right.
But when you think about Netflix buying Warner Brothers, what that means.
Yeah.
Or Paramount buying it.
Well, here we sit right in the middle of it, in some ways, if you will. I think I talked about this last week. There's a new media summit happening in Austin in January, and they're marketing it as for those making $1 to $5 million a year in the media industry. We're not $1 million company yet, folks, so we're not going to go to this. But there's even right. So that's part of it too. Is there's now a new media because I am seeing more and more. They're fleeting. They don't last as long, it seems, on YouTube news channels. People attempting to do quote news or real journalism. And here on New Thought Media Network, we do a program on Friday nights, and now the good news. And I don't pretend that that's in any way real journalism, other than we're reporting on information we've gotten from other journalists. However, that's, let's say, the good side, the good use of the equation. We're not out there doing it ourselves, but we're focusing on the stories that build love, that bring people together, that are dismantling the sense of separation, that are bringing us to a greater understanding of our oneness. You and I talk about that all the time, and we've got to find ways that bring us back to an understanding, and then therefore an expression of our oneness, not our separation.
Yeah. Because and we talked about it before we started today, and as you said, we talk about it often. One of the key principles of our teaching is this global universal cosmic idea of oneness, and that everything is connected. There is not one thing that stands in isolation to everything else. And so we've been distracted from that by all of the different ways we can isolate or go. It's good to go within to observe, but if you go too deep in there and get lost in the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole, now that's a problem. And so that appears to be happening now. And when you look at uh, the inconsistency of the people's policies and statements and laws that are supposed to help us. I mean, we put these people in office, right? But right now we got the healthcare insurance crisis, right? That's a whole competition and program by itself, right? People's,
Yep.
I listened to an NPR yesterday. It said somebody's stuff is going from $500 a month to almost $1,500 a month if this doesn't get settled. Then I saw something about, the economics, and we talked about the weather, that last year was the lowest year of EVs being sold to something like that with the EVs globally, right? Sales hit their lowest point earlier in 2024, after we stopped giving tax credits and all of that, right? So, we've set this thing up to me, and my cronies at the expense of the wholeness and oneness and connectedness of it all. And, that old adage, chicken comes home to roost, is a true story. I spent a little time on a farm in the South, and that's a true statement. And if you aren't careful, they will be coming home to roost.
Yeah. It really seems to me like that a lot, and I want to be careful, right? What we didn't set it up. We haven't been. I don't. There. I really believe that when we get down to the annals of history, this time will be seen not only as one of the lowest. Where'd I go? Oh, there I am. I want to wait for a second. All right, I'll be back. This is one of not only the lowest times in human culture, but it is also the born of a new renaissance, the birth of a new renaissance. Because the setup, the game board that we're all playing on, and no, that's not a flat earth reference. The game board that we're playing on is rigged towards the good. It's set up to bring us more good. It's set up so that we can bring more love and light and beauty and truth and health and wealth and well-being to all of it. There's some players on the board that, and you're saying it perfectly, are so ingrained, so rooted in this me-ness, that there's no room for the collective. And this is kind of interesting because I've had some extra time recently, later in the evenings, and I found, and I wrote a Substack article about this, folks. You can read all this in my Substack, but I found it, and the confession is I never read the book Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And I know that, and I've heard pieces of the story, but I've never really paid attention to it. And there was a part of me that was like, I'm not worried about it. I don't need to know. And I was trolling through some old movies recently, and I found a 3-part movie series on Atlas Shrugged. Now, It's not incredibly well done movies, by the way. It's not the best acting in the world, so for anybody watching that just said, really, they made that into a movie? Yeah, no, it wasn't that good of a movie, but it was easier than reading the book. I figure I'll get an idea without reading the book. Right? But if it comes down to it, Atlas Shrugged misses the most important part of it, because the book pits the individual creators against the collective good that is represented by authoritarianism. I think we can experience and share to the collective good without the authoritarianism. And I think that the creatives in our lives retreating to some idyllic island, idyllic little enclave is absolutely ridiculous. And what it all misses is it misses this unifying piece of the recognition that we are one. Not anywhere in these three movies, in my exploration of this, is there any representation of what happens when you bring spirituality into the mix. And that's what we do around here.
Right.
Is we bring spirituality into that mix of, am I here to serve myself or am I here to serve the greater good? And we say it's both.
And when we leave out spirituality, it's like trying to flip a one-sided coin. You can't do it. Everything has at least two sides. Now, if we start going, geometric, there could be a lot more than two sides, right? And making that point to say the wholeness of it is key. Now, if I'm looking at a two-dimensional thing, the wholeness of it is on or off, or 1 and 2, or 0, however you want to label the two sides. If I go geometric and depending on the system I'm looking at, that 1 or 2 options can now become 6, 8, 12, and we begin to stumble at that level, because you said something earlier, made reference to this idea of perfection. Well, if we live in a world that is evolving, and we see the news is an indication of that alone, or the weather, we can make that so. If that's the case, perfection cannot exist, because everything is evolving, and perfection by definition, in the way we use it, is a steady state. I have gotten to a point where I'm perfect and I don't need to do anything else. But everything else around me is evolving and changing. So in that kind of paradigm, I'm going to get squeezed, right?
Right.
So it's tough to picture a perfection in an evolving universe. And the news tries to pin it down to some, as you said, utopic, idyllic place where there's nothing going to ever go wrong again. I mean, you look at the economy, right? So they cut the interest rates, right? But they're saying they don't know if that's going to help any much with housing, which is one of the major issues people are suffering, whether they're not able to find housing to buy or whether they're unhoused. Housing is a problem. And so you're dropping the rates and you're still saying most people still can't do it. Well, who's going to do it? Who is that rate benefiting?
Yeah.
And it creates this uneven playing field where people who don't have anything or don't have much, they would love the idea of a utopic where everybody had everything, and they'll, we can just go sit by the stream and watch birds. But it's ever evolving, ever changing, and we have to and it changes in a fashion of oneness. And we have to get to that as a people, as a globe, or there are consequences if we don't.
Yeah. Very true. Our dear friend Linda is with us. The connection of all as the one is constant, and our awareness of it is variable. Yes, Linda, and that's a big part of what we're sharing here. Is I see that variable use of the oneness of our awareness of is variable. Our conscious use of the law towards good can be variable, because every conversation we have falls into this greater me or greater good type of every conversation. There's an opportunity for me to move the results, to move the outcome towards what is good for me or what is good for the whole. And I can lose sight of my oneness and think that it's all about my uniqueness very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps that is perhaps that's part of what this whole spiritual journey is all about.
I mean, yeah, and just think, I mean, for decades, this idea of measles and things like that were far-fetched, right? We had a program that minimizes the occurrence of measles and the effect it can have on children. Well, now, we had the measles outbreak in Texas. Now we have one in South Carolina, and the governing body that's supposed to be keeping tabs on how to administer this stuff has just abandoned it and says, they do this, that, and the other. They're not effective or whatever. And now we're having increased occurrences of these things that we used to get rid of with vaccines, while the government or the agency that's supposed to be looking at our healthcare has just abandoned all things of reason and proof, it appears. Just as we get ready to go into the holiday season, by the way.
Yep. It's interesting. It seems like the only thing, gas prices are down in the U.S. It seems like the only thing that's going down and we've all seen gas prices do this. This is a momentary dip of gas prices. Let's come back at January, February, March and see where we are first quarter. But ultimately, everything else is becoming increasingly expensive. Who can afford $1,000 a month increase when wages are stagnant? What working class type of folk can afford that much of an increase in just your health insurance when your food costs are going up by 20-30%? There's reports now that food costs are approaching 40 to 50% higher than pre-pandemic pricing. How can anybody afford? Truthfully, how do we afford to live these days when car prices are up, when food prices are up, when healthcare is out of the reach of so many Americans? That I was in. We had a chance to go to Africa a little over a year ago now, or almost a year ago now, and in that I saw slums in Nairobi that I had never imagined just how it really is. And if American politicians, if we don't get our shit together soon, we're going to be right there too. So we have to become aware of our oneness, yes, but then we also have to be committed to sharing our oneness and promoting our oneness and demanding that others promote our one and express and share and live and do this together, because it's never going to work alone. It's It's never going to work alone. America is becoming so isolated from itself. This other one now is the current administration's pushing an idea that tourists, even from countries that don't require a visa, if you're from the UK, you don't have to apply for, quote, a visa to come here. You just can come here. You get on a plane, you can come here. Any of our allies. Well, even now they're talking about anyone outside the US needing to provide up to 5 years of social media history to come into the country. Number one, how in the world am I supposed to supply you with 5 years of my Facebook? I can't even figure out what happened 2 days ago with the amount of ads they show me. It takes me an hour to scroll back to that thing I saw yesterday on Facebook. How am I supposed to show you 5 years of that? And number two, who's going to go through and look at all that shit and determine, oh, this is good and that's not good, and oh, you're allowed and you're not allowed? But we're setting in place these idiotic policies, raising the fees for national park visits on foreigners, on those from outside the country. All the I'm sorry, I'm going to work myself up here. All that we're doing is trying to hide and like, nope, you can't come in here, especially you, Stanley Kyle, right? You can't come in. Nope, you can't come in here. And that doesn't promote oneness.
Right. And you know, I just think back, you were talking about the pricing and of gas and and so I just did a little quick survey checking on what is the average cost of food in the US for a family of 4, right? So they're saying on average, depending on obviously a bunch of things, location, this, that, and the other, anywhere from $1,000 to $1,600 a month for a family of 4. And that'll vary whether you have infants in the household, the age of the kids, and roughly about $350 a month per person, which averages out to about $12,000 a year, right? To $20,000 a year. Now, some people may not even be making that much. Now, you throw housing on top of that. If you got a job of $50,000 a year, that's gross. Once you pay tax, over half of your money is going to go to food and shelter.
And
we still need some utilities. We still need some transportation. We still need some downtime.
Yep. And auto insurance is on the rise. Like, again, we could go through the whole litany, folks. We're going to run out of time here soon, but we could go through the whole litany of where costs are rising. My household over the last year and a half or so, we went from 2 vehicles and 2 drivers to 3 vehicles and 3 drivers to 3 vehicles and 4 drivers. And I cry every time I open the insurance bill, because right, and we're even doing that whole, all those ads on the internet, folks, for $59 insurance. Yeah, that ain't real shit. That ain't real. Don't. And every time we get an auto insurance bill, we got to have a family meeting over dinner about, okay, this has increased this much, and I get it. I got, teenagers just getting started in life. We want to put them on the right foot. We want to give them every advantage we can, but you better get your ass to work if you want to drive a car around this house, because you need to start contributing to the car insurance bill. So it's time for a change. I think most people recognize that. And believe that change is coming in consciousness. And as we continue to change in consciousness, we will see those outpicturings. We got to name it to claim it. We got to speak the truth to we got to say what's real, what's going on. I'm not going to pretend that life is absolutely an economic boom suddenly because gas prices went down a little bit and I can buy some cheap gas. That's great. I can buy all the cheap gas I want. I can't afford a hotel room when I get there. I can't go on vacation to $300-400 a night for a room, to spend $70 or $80 a day on food per person. You take a family of 4 out for a long weekend. Again, for many, many, many people out there, and my family included, we must find ways to shift the collective consciousness of our country and not just believe a few when they say, oh, the economy's great. Because the economy is only great for those few.
And you know that this conscious shifting is going to happen because they're going to bump up against a rude awakening. Like I looked at my electric bill the other day. Oh. And now they've changed the peak hours of when they charge you the most.
Yep.
And so I literally, when I looked at my utility for gas and electric bill for this same time last year, I use less utilities, but I'm paying almost 3 times as much for those utilities that I use less of this year than I did last year. Now, you know, we've been lucky, as I was saying at the top of the show here in Colorado. I mean, we got 65 degrees yesterday and it's supposed to be headed there today in the middle of December. This ain't going to last until spring. Sooner or later, we're going to have to pay to the piper. And if I'm doing triple and double now, I don't know what I'm going to walk around with in my full coat, sweatpants, long hams and everything in the house.
Yep. You know,
so our consciousness is going to be changed by the conditions we face, and we're going to begin to realize.
Yep. Here in Colorado, folks, for those that don't know, Colorado has a unique, Xcel Energy has a very unique system of determining when we're allowed to do dishes and our laundry and such. Because right now we're in the winter hours, which means you can use electricity during the day cheap. But it's more expensive. It's cheaper now. And at 5 o'clock, the rates go up. So from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, if you run your dishwasher, if you do your laundry, if you use your oven, if you use any heavy electrical pull from 5 to 9 p.m., it costs you more. Let me see. People come home from work, they turn on their lights, they turn on the heater because they've been at work all day long, or their smart thermostat turns it up for them at 4:45, so it's warm at 5 o'clock. You do your laundry after dinner, you do your dishes after dinner, and by 9 o'clock, you can't do anything after dinner anymore. And then in the spring, they switch it all around, and you got to wait. And then you can't do anything after, or you got to wait until after 7 o'clock, and then after 7 o'clock, and it's expensive and it makes life a mess. Because nobody knows can I do dishes now? No, you got to wait till 9 o'clock. No, don't do dishes. So I'll stay up to do dishes after 9 o'clock just to save my electric bill.
And I'm laughing, but it's not funny because I'm paying the price of it right now. When I just looked at my bill from last month to this month, I was like, what in the heck? My budget was blown and running anything.
Yep.
And so and speaking to that consciousness level, people's there's going to be some little individual one or two things that sits with them that's going to say, whoa, I got to take a different approach to everything. My budget, my awareness, my relationships, my time, my use of time, what people are feeding me to buy into in terms of movies and commercials and stories. Not that they're not to be ignored, but they have to be put in perspective in this global consciousness of me, i.e., not as an individual, but as a component of a family, of a community, of a city, and outward, to understand the levers that are being pulled on any given thing. Now, you don't want to run yourself crazy, because you can run yourself crazy trying to figure it all out. That's where the spiritual piece comes in. You find of surrender and being in touch so that you can follow the flow, that you're guided, that you understand how to maneuver in the river.
Yep. Well, that's where we are, folks. We're maneuvering in the river. We're figuring it out, and we're going to continue to figure it out together, right? Yes. And we're going to say it again and again and again. Now is that time. We have to raise up our own consciousness to say, yes, these things exist. Yes, as our friend Linda is again saying, the billionaires do seem to have a strong desire to create separation. And we don't have to buy into that. We can we can create a consciousness, a collective consciousness that says, regardless of the numbers, people are going to be taken care of. That new ways and new forms and new avenues of income and sustenance are coming our way. That everyone is being taken care of, from housing to food to financial security. It may not always look that way, and we may not be able to see it in every experience. But as we've said today, all we got to do is turn our awareness back to it. Turn our awareness back to the oneness, back to the connective, to the collective. So we have definitely run out of time here today. We want to let you get into your morning, and please stay tuned to New Thought Media Network, all of our live broadcasting. It's a great day here. We've got so much, as always, including all of our regular programming. But remember the High Vibe Hour with Rev Skip and Rev Linda. That's at 11. We've also got the Joy Show at 1, the Good News at 5, the Fireside Chat at 6. It's a full day here on New Thought Media Network, and we're grateful that you're a part of the family. We're grateful that you're a part of what we're creating here, not only in form, but in consciousness. Z, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I just say, let's get a vision of clarity and heart to move forward, to continue to recognize the oneness of all things.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Folks, we love you. We look forward to seeing you again next Friday, same time, same channel. But until then, we're going to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.